Good morning, everyone. My name is Julie Feast. I'm the Chief Executive of EDT and here to welcome you today to the second day of the Industrial Cadets Week. For those of you that joined yesterday, I'm sure you'll agree that we had a really great insight into GFG Foundation Alliance, the steel industry and all the variations of roles and insights. And today our focus is on another great sponsor of ours, GE, and we're going to hear more about the company, about the roles, what they do, and their part that they play in the global world. I'd say to you today as well, just in terms of asking questions, we're going to show you lots of different videos. There's going to be various different panels running. Ask questions whenever you like throughout the day. So if you get questions, if you're listening to people talk, you can put the questions in at any point, even if it's over the lunch hour when we're not actually running live. We can save all those questions and we'll get them responded to live in the employer panel at the end of the day. So I'd like to now introduce you to Marilisa and Rosalind, who are going to introduce GE, the work that they do, and it will give us a great start to the day. Thank you.
Welcome to GE. I am Rosalind Munro and I'm proud to co-lead community investment at GE General Electric here in the UK. GE is a technology company that exists to bring real progress and possibility to every corner of the planet, safely delivering people where they need to go, powering homes, schools, hospitals and businesses, and offering more precise diagnostics and care when patients need it most. Worldwide, we employ over 280,000 people and operate in 180 countries. In the UK and Ireland, we have over 20 sites.
Hello, I am Marilisa Vega, co-lead for this program, which is GE's way of giving back to the communities in which it operates. Our primary focus is to inspire young people to become the innovators of tomorrow by taking up careers in STEM. And that's why we chose to support the course that you're taking part in today. Now, you may not have heard of GE, but this company is likely to have touched your life in many different ways. GE was founded by Thomas Edison in 1892. Yep, that's the inventor of the light bulb. Invention is at GE's core. In the words of our founder, we're finding out what the world needs and then proceeding to invent it. And that's nearly 130 years on.
When was the last time you boarded a plane? It's highly likely that your journey was powered by a GE aviation engine. Has anyone in your family had a baby recently? Their ultrasound scans could well have been taken using GE Healthcare's equipment. And believe it or not, GE Power and GE Renewable Energies Technology produce a third of the world's electricity every day. Not only that, GE Digital Software manages 40% of global electricity.
And here are some examples of how GE drives innovation across the UK and Ireland. GE Renewable Energy is testing the world's largest wind turbine, the Heliad X, in Northumberland. We're handling the world's largest and most fuel-efficient aircraft engine, GE9X, in GE Aviation, Wales. GE Healthcare is supplying around 2 in 3 NHS hospitals nationwide with medical imaging equipment. We're providing propulsion systems for the UK's largest ever naval vessel, the Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carrier.
All in all, GE plays a vital role in the growth and competitiveness of the region. In the UK and Ireland, GE has over 125 years of experience, employing around 12,000 people. As a large exporter, GE contracts thousands of UK-based suppliers.
So thank you so much, Marilisa and Rosalind. I think that gave us a really good introduction into GE and all the work that it does. And what I hope you will find interesting there, as you can see, they have locations all across the UK, so there can be places close to you where you could work with them, and the wide range of roles and work that they do, all the way from healthcare to propelling aircraft carriers. It's amazing the scope of work that they do. We're now going to hear from some graduates and apprentices on a panel to answer some of those questions that you might have in your head, just in terms of those early careers and how you could get into GE. Over to you. Thank you.
Experiences with entering the world of work. So I guess if we start with the graduate students, could you tell me what university you studied at and why did you pick that university?
Yeah, I'll kick off. So I graduated this year from Queen Mary, which is based in East London. So in terms of why, I think the fact that I wanted to do like aerospace specifically kind of played quite a big part in choosing my uni for me. While I was looking for courses, a lot of other really good unis did like electrical, mechanical, general, but they didn't do aerospace. So I kind of narrowed down my choices. You know, Queen Mary had like a good reputation. It was quite high in the rankings. It was an IET accredited course, which can help for like professional registration and stuff. But I think it's all well and good, like considering statistics, but it is also like 3 to 4 years of your life. So I think it's good to think about your kind of lifestyle outside of uni as well. So I liked the idea of living in London. Knew it wasn't something I wanted to do like permanently, but kind of getting the chance to live it for a few years at uni seemed like a good chance. So that's something to think about, I think.
Thanks, Laura.
I also graduated this summer. I did an integrated master's at the University of Edinburgh, and I studied electronics and electrical engineering. And I chose to go to Edinburgh because I'm from the east coast of Scotland, and Edinburgh is about an hour away from my hometown. So I'd still be close to my family, but still get the independence of living away from home. Edinburgh is a really good university. It's one of the best in Scotland, and as well as the education side, it also has a lot of sports teams and societies that you can get involved with, which is where I met a lot of my best friends during university. So that's also as important as the education side.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I went to the University of Sheffield, and I graduated last year, did an integrated master's as well. The main reason I went to Sheffield was, firstly, they had a great course, mechatronic and robotic engineering. I mean, when you see that name, you kind of want to find out what's going on. But apart from that, I visited quite a few unis actually. Unfortunately, with COVID, I'm sure you're not visiting many unis, but I visited quite a lot, and Sheffield gave me that feel. You know, I just felt at home there. I felt I liked the view of the place. I liked the location. I liked the activities they had at the university. So now, make sure you consider not just the academic side, but also what life would be like living in that city.
Amazing. And for those of you which are doing an apprenticeship, what was that process like for, you know, deciding that that was what you wanted to do and then securing your apprenticeship?
Well, I think I went to uni for a couple of years and I didn't quite enjoy how it was planning out for me. I didn't enjoy the big lecture halls, and it was very impersonal, and I couldn't also apply what I was learning to. I'm a very physical learner, so when I learn something, I want to be able to apply it. And so at the time I dropped out of that uni and just wanted to know what was next for me, and I felt like an apprenticeship would fit the bill of learning and studying at the same time.
So I'm also doing an apprenticeship, and when I finished my A-levels, I actually applied to both university and apprenticeships because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. Though I kind of knew it was kind of engineering like. So I applied to a couple of apprenticeships and the standard 5 universities you do for UCAS. And I chose an apprenticeship because for me, when I look at engineering, I know it's a very hands-on practical subject. You learn a lot more. I learn a lot more by doing things. It kind of sticks in my mind when I do it instead of just learning the theory behind it. So that's why I decided on an apprenticeship. When I was looking at which apprenticeship I wanted to do, I looked at, obviously, I wanted to do a degree apprenticeship, wanting to kind of get a degree alongside working. But also the apprenticeship I'm doing at GE gives me a lot of extra professional development opportunities. So whereas some apprenticeships I kind of just do the work and then go to uni, the one at GE we get loads of opportunities to do kind of STEM outreach, and lots of different training courses. And GE is a huge organisation that kind of goes all over the world, so there was opportunities to meet with people and work with people in other GE businesses and in different countries as well. So that's why I chose an apprenticeship.
Amazing, thank you. So for those of you who are currently on the scheme, could you tell us a little bit about what that means and how that's different to, say, a regular traditional job?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest sort of difference would be a lot of grad schemes are rotational. So for example, like the GE one is the Edison Engineering Grad Scheme. So it's 2 years long and you spend, I think, like 8 months on 3 different jobs. So if you walk into that, you get the experience of different roles within engineering. So if you don't quite know within the umbrella of engineering, like what you want to do, which is kind of the stage I'm at, like I know engineering, I know aerospace, but within that, I'm still not too sure. I think it's a really good way of kind of understanding that a bit more, which, you know, you wouldn't get that rotational aspect going into just like a straight engineering job. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The benefit of it is you get to try things that you might, you can take a risk, something that maybe you're not sure you're gonna like, but you can go for it because you can do anything for 8 months, even if you hate it. So it's a great opportunity to do that. But in particular, the GE one's really good because I'm not trying to sell GE, but they a course that goes, a learning program that goes alongside the rotations, and the learning program is actually quite intense and it's very geared at getting you to have a well-rounded engineering knowledge base, which is very good for someone who wants to not only be a one-dimensional engineer, but a more well-rounded and complete engineer. So, yeah, that's why I chose the graduate scheme over a direct entry.
I'm not on a graduate scheme, but I'm doing an internship, which is sort of the same, but a smaller time scale. And you don't have to graduate to join it. So the other interns I'm working with, some of them are doing year in industry, so they've done 2 years of their degree, and then they'll go back to uni and do their final year after that, which is also an option for some people. So it's basically the same, where I get put into a particular area of the business, and then I'll be working with the 3 different teams over the 12 months. And I also get to do an interns group project, which is really nice because I get to work with the other interns who are all in different teams. So we get to learn a lot of different things not directly related to what the work we're actually doing is.
Wow. And for those of you who are doing apprentices, what's your split like between working and studying, and how do you find managing your time?
Well, physically working, we work 4 days a week, and then or in office 4 days a week, and we have college once a week or uni once a week. But time management wise, provided you're I think it's, I don't know how to put this. It depends where your priorities lie. I know people that prefer the work, so they tend to put more of their energy there, which shouldn't theoretically be the case. But as long as you can do your best in both of them while dividing your time as you see fit, yeah, I don't have an issue with my time management. I like to think, at least. I try my best to keep it pretty, work is 75 and college it's less of my time physically, but I still bring my best effort to both. I think, I don't know if Margaret has a different tactic.
Yeah, I think what's nice about doing an apprenticeship is there's always people around to help. So whereas sometimes I struggle with, there's a really big problem at work and I want to spend a bit more time on it, there's always people around that I can pull in to help with that, so it doesn't take up as much of my time. And the same goes for uni work. Like, I'm doing an engineering degree that the company has picked for us. And so the modules we study are directly related to the work that we do on site. So there's a huge network of people that I can go to ask for help and kind of help me cut down the amount of time it takes me to do a task, which is really great. And I think as apprentices, we're not expected to be perfect at time management. So there's loads of leeway that we get given to kind of, settle into doing work, and then uni work, and then all the other kind of volunteering and training that you may want to kind of take part in.
I think another thing that's nice about the Margaret saying there's always people to help. Some of our lecturers in the earlier years are from industry, so they actually work at us with GE, or they work at other engineering companies, so they can bring an actual life experience towards the subjects, which is really good to be able to compare the two. So they'll teach you something like, oh, and I use this in my job like this, and so that also helps. So we can take the work we're learning at college back into work.
Great, thank you. And now for all of you, and I know what you're going to say straight away. I know that there is no typical day. But what would, if there was a typical day, what would that look like for you? What does your day-to-day involve?
So on my current rotation, I'm kind of involved in a few different projects, and they're all at different stages along the way. So the work I've picked up on each is kind of slightly different. So there's definitely a good variety, and I'm definitely not sat doing the same thing all the time, which is great. So the main things our kind of department look into are reliability and maintainability. So you could have a system that has literally thousands of components in it. We'd kind of look at those components and think, okay, how often are they going to fail? Understand how and when certain parts are going to wear out, and understand what effects those failures might have on the function of the overall system. And that kind of gets fed back into the design at different stages. And then on the maintainability side, we might be sat looking at a CAD model or something and thinking, okay, if we need to remove and replace a certain item that's failed, what needs to be taken off? How can we access it? Is that possible with the design, how it is at the minute? What kind of resources would you need to do that in terms of tooling and time and people, that kind of thing. So definitely a good variety of things. That doesn't really describe a typical day exactly, because it's all so different, but
Yeah, so on a typical day, I will wake up on the right-hand side of my bed. All right. So I'm on a software rotation, and we keep using the word rotation, but rotation is just a role. Currently I'm doing a software role, and what I will usually do is look at my calendar, check any emails, and plan my day. So my calendar will usually have maybe two or three meetings. So I'll look at my task list and I'll see which tasks I can do before a meeting, because you don't want to get engrossed in a big task and then you have to break it up with a meeting. I like to have continuous time on a specific thing, but I also don't like to only do one thing a day. So I'll probably look at my task list and see what task can I do when, and then when I've got that done, I will open up my the program I'm using is called MATLAB, so I'll open that up and start working on that. I'll usually get stuck and I'll message my team lead and say, if you've got 5 minutes to talk through some code, he'll say, no, go away. I'm joking. They're very helpful, and they'll just, yeah, people really try and help out. So they'll spare some time and then help you out. And yeah, like everyone's saying, there's no typical day, but the structure is similar every single day. You look at your work that you have to do, you look at how much time you have and what you've got on that day, and you just fit it, make it work.
Awesome, thank you.
So, go for it.
I started my internship in September, so during COVID, I've been working from home the whole time, so I haven't been able to actually meet people. So every morning we do a 15-minute morning greetings with the other interns and our line manager, where we just talk about not work-related things, to try and get to know each other better, because it's definitely not the same as like being in the office and just like chatting and having lunch together and stuff. And also with GE, they have lots of different affinity networks. So as well as doing the work during the day, there'll sometimes be meetings or events by like the Women's Network or the GLBTA network, which is nice to get involved with. And especially with the Women's Network, I've been doing virtual coffees with people. So just like half an hour once a week with a different female engineer, just to get to know their experience, what they're doing, and get tips and advice from people who have been working at the business for a lot longer than I have.
So with my team, I'm currently in what we call the response team. So when test equipment breaks, we go and fix it. But we have a very early starting team, so we're all in office for mostly just before 7 in the morning. And then our first meeting, we have a civil meeting, which is like civil things. And we just talk about what's happening in the day or what happened when we weren't at work, because we come in early, so we also leave early. So there's that like 2 hours in the afternoon that we could miss, and the shift workers work quite late into the evening. So we discuss what's happening in civil for 15 minutes, and then straight from that one, I go into a military version of it. And we just discuss with like the different teams about what's happened overnight, what needs fixing, what's coming up for the day. And that's pretty much is the only consistent thing in my day is those 2 meetings. And then the rest is just getting on with work. I'm much like Teddy. I like to do lots of different things at once, like focus on one thing and then, okay, I need a break, I need a breather. Just look at different work, especially if it's like drawing CAD drawings. And it's just like, oh, nope, that line is not matching that line. I've had enough for today. And I'll just start doing something else. But I have a very lovely team that's always open, even if it's like I've not run out of work, but I'm waiting on someone else or on something to arrive or to be completed. I'll just go to my team and it's like, hey, do you have other work for me? Or is there anything you need help, even if it's like an odd job? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, this needs doing. Can you help me? So the only consistent part of my day is the morning meetings and then lunch.
Lunch being the most important part of the day, right?
Obviously.
So for me, I'm being kind of just over 4 years into my apprenticeship scheme. I have done quite a lot of rotations around the business, and for the different rotations with the different teams, you kind of have different work to do every day. But I think one thing that's consistent, and I think it's come up quite a couple of times as well, is that the only thing that I definitely do every day is talk to my whole team, or maybe it's not my whole team, maybe it's just 1 or 2 people, and whether it's kind of socially for a chat to kind of see how you're getting on, especially now that we're all meeting virtually and we don't see people, or whether it's like I'm stuck with my work, or like literally anything. I haven't had a day since starting at GE where I haven't spoken to like at least 2 or 3 different people, and not always on my team. It can just be like anyone. Like I'll be walking down to the canteen, I'll see someone, and we'll say it's like a 5-minute chat, but it normally lasts a bit longer than that. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's been really, really insightful, I think. I guess I'd just like to finish by asking, knowing what you do now and with all the experiences that you've had and everything that you've learned today, what advice would you give to students, or the young people watching that are maybe still in school and thinking about what to do next? What advice would you give them if they're interested in getting into a similar field of work?
I think a key thing for me has been, as cheesy as it's going to sound, but not being afraid to fail. Because I started and I was very adamant that uni was going to be the route for me, and I was going to attend uni and I was going to get my 4-year degree and I was going to go join the workforce immediately after, and everything was going to be super successful. And that's not how it's gone at all. I mean, it's just going with the flow most of the time. It's just, okay, that didn't work, but what do I think will work for me? So just if you do happen to fail, or if you make a decision that's not best for you and your learning style, just keep on. It's not the end of the world. And I'm not great with that concept, but everybody around me is like, oh, but you've done this, this, and this in the last 5 years, whereas these people haven't. And as they say, comparison is a thief of joy. But yeah, so just not being afraid to fail, and definitely don't compare yourself to anybody else in the workforce, because everybody's journey is different. And I sound like a motivational book.
No, very true.
100% true.
100% true.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think everyone's got like a completely different route into how they've, the job that they've ended up in. I know in my cohort of graduates this year with GE, we've all had completely different degrees. We've all come from different areas of the UK, different experiences. So there's no one right way to get yourself into engineering. But I guess the only thing I'd add would be, you probably hear it everywhere, but just make the most of all the the outreach events and all the STEM programs and stuff, because there's so much stuff, especially for GCSE, A level, that kind of age. So go and talk to real engineers, understand what they do. Do some work experience, see if you can visit manufacturing sites and actually pick up some real products. I think the EDT do the engineering education scheme, where you can work on a real project. That's really good. I think only by doing that you can kind of decide if engineering is actually for you. I think kind of help put it into context a bit. There's probably still a slight misconception about what engineering really is. I think we kind of touched on it earlier, even for me at uni, it was much more theoretical than I expected. And for me personally, I ended up quite liking that area a bit, but there's obviously areas of engineering where you can be much more hands-on if that's for you. So yeah, experience as much as possible outside of the classroom, and start learning more about the industry, I guess.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, I hope you guys like cheese, because I'm bringing some more. So one thing I think I would tell myself is that you can do anything, because the difference between you guys watching and us is the fact that we've had more time to try this stuff out. It's not like we're any better than you, or we have an extra brain that you don't have, or anything like that. Literally, you can do anything. You can, on your first day, you might feel like you know nothing, but that's just because you're surrounded by people who've been there more days than you. So just give yourself some grace and try. Like everyone said, try. Don't be afraid to fail. And if you fail, you're learning. You learn from what you mess up on. So yeah, you can do anything. Don't count yourself out.
That's lovely. Thank you.
So a piece of advice that I would have for students is about networking, because I think what I found a lot meeting lots of different people is that a lot of people have got the roles they've got by knowing people, talking to them, finding about what is out there. And something that's really cool that I heard yesterday is that a lot of the time you attend a lot of these events, and there's always people on there that say, if you want to get in touch with me, find me on LinkedIn, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to kind of get to know you, find a mentor, that sort of stuff. And very rarely does anybody actually take them up on that. And honestly, if you're afraid to reach out to people, because I definitely was a very shy person when I started my apprenticeship, but there is absolutely no need to be afraid to get to know people, because honestly, if you ask for their time and you want to get to know them and they say no, they're probably not worth getting to know. But the number of people that will say no is about like 0.01%. Like most people, if they're offering the opportunity to say, get in touch with me, it's because they want to get to know you and help you and mentor you and point you in the right direction, give you advice. So just don't be afraid to reach out, because that's why I guess all of us are doing this here. It's because we want to help you make the right choice for you.
Just to add something quickly, I'd say if you're passionate about something, try and find as much opportunities as you can to learn more about it and gain more experience. So when I was at university, I joined a society which was about sustainable engineering, and through that I got to volunteer with a charity in Romania during one summer. I got to build a wind turbine for a charity in Edinburgh, and it's those sort of things that set you apart from other people when you're applying for jobs after you graduate. And now I'm working for GE Renewable Energy, which is just like a perfect mixture of my things I know and my passions. So it's definitely important to not just concentrate on what you're learning in the classroom, but to get that outside experience as well.
Incredible. Thank you so much. That's really, really lovely to hear. That's everything from me. So thank you so much for all of your time. It's been absolutely fantastic to speak to you, and I've loved hearing about all of your different experiences, and I'm so excited to see what you'll do next. So thank you ever so much.
Thank you to all the graduates and apprentices who gave us that unique insight into GE. I think you'll all agree there's some great advice there. Gain experience and make the most of any opportunities that come your way. So hold on to some of that, and also that obviously lunch is very important. So we find out more about GE coming up now. We've got a really exciting session with Gemma Hurt, who's the Early Careers Leader for Europe. And she's going to give you some hints and tips about how to stand out in the crowd. And then we go on to meet Dan Nichols and Tracy Gaston, who head up graduate and apprentice recruitment for GE. So stay with us and watch the next session, because it will be full of more exciting insight into GE. Thank you.
Welcome to Gemma Hurt. Gemma is the Early Careers Leader for Europe at GE. Gemma's been with GE for just over a year now and has worked in early careers for over 10 years. We're really lucky that she's speaking to us today. She's going to have a chat about the whole recruitment process and give us some general hints and tips about how to stand out for application really worthwhile. So Gemma, I guess could you tell us a little bit about what the whole recruitment process looks like, sort of start to finish?
Yes, I can. So there are many different elements of a typical recruitment process. So I use the word typical because they do vary, and across all of our opportunities at GE Aviation, there will be slight different nuances of the recruitment process. But the kind of big buckets I give you will definitely be experienced wherever you apply. So typically it's an online application. I know people are tempted to send in CVs to emails. Don't do that. We need you to apply online through GE Careers. and every other business will typically be the same. Then there'll be some element of screening, so be screening the application, be it your CV or an application form or cover letter. Again, each will vary slightly differently. Online tests are pretty standard in most of our recruitment processes, an opportunity to find out a little bit more about you and look at your success for the future. And then there'd be a different variety of interview combinations. So for internships, for example, we have a video interview, which enables you to do your interview whenever you want. And then a later stage interview, and some of our apprenticeships and our leadership programs, that final interview will be part of a bigger assessment centre with a variety of different tasks like group exercises, presentations and interviews, and maybe some practical exercises as well.
Amazing. Sounds like there's a lot there. So I guess, what do you think would be your top tips on how to stand out in that initial application process?
And then it lends to a hint that I will expand more later, is about really narrow down your applications. I'm sure there's some advice about apply absolutely everywhere. I would encourage you just to really think about the applications that you really care about and target that job hunt. And that means you can put the right amount of energy into those applications, because you want to stand out by demonstrating research, demonstrating passion, tailoring your CV to look at the requirements of the role, and all of that takes time. So you can see that effort and time commitment into those applications, and that really stands out.
Fantastic. And I guess just carrying on in that theme, what about some hints for the rest of the process?
Yeah. So I think research is key. So that kind of lends itself to kind of standing out, is really do your research, use a variety of sources to find out more about the business, because by doing research, you demonstrate passion. For the testing stage, I'd really understand what kind of tests. So for us, for our internships, for example, and some of our leadership programs, it's a situational based test. So actually there's no prep, which is amazing. The advice would be just to go with your gut. Don't overthink the question too much, just go what instinctively feels right for you. In other businesses, you might have more aptitude tests, and I would definitely recommend you need to do preparation. So totally the opposite advice. I would definitely recommend getting some practice tests. For the video interview, try and find out from your recruiter what they're likely to be interviewing against. For us, we'll ask some questions linked to the GE beliefs and kind of demonstrating again the passion and research about the role. Other businesses, they might demonstrate competencies they're looking for. There should be kind of clues on their job description the recruiter should guide you, but make sure you do that preparation, really reflect on your experiences and look at the breadth of experiences you've had. So think about your education, think about any sports or societies or any work experience. I often use this example. I used to work at a pub, and on the surface of it, I mopped floors, I pulled pints, and I took money. But what I actually did was maintain health and safety standards, provided excellent customer service, protected the revenue of the business, all wrapped into team working as well. So when you're thinking about your experiences, you might think, how is this connecting to the role? I'd always recommend people to think about why they did something as well as what they did, and it can elevate that experience. So really look at the breadth of experiences. Make sure you prepare for that interview and make sure you can demonstrate that research and you've really thought about your answers in advance of that interview. For an assessment centre, I would be yourself. I'm sure as well in group exercises, people have been talked about, make sure you manage the time or be the scribe. All that shows us is that you can tell the time and you can write. And we need probably a little bit more from you. So make sure you understand the task in a group exercise, you contribute your ideas, and you can have differing opinions with other people in the group, but just think about how, what values you are demonstrating by the way you challenge those individuals. It doesn't always mean the person with the loudest voice who's leading the team is always doing the best. Think about quieter members, bring them in. If you don't contribute, it's probably fairly indicative you haven't done so well. So do make sure you add value to that group discussion. In your presentation, really listen to the brief. Think about how you want to present, whatever the question might be. Make sure you've really thought about the delivery of you delivering that message, but also the visuals. If you've got PowerPoint, you don't need everything verbatim on a PowerPoint. Think about how you're building that rapport. And Poppy, you're smiling lots at me, which is wonderful. And that's also really important, is how do you build rapport with your interviewer or your assessor, be it virtual or be it face-to-face, is how do you build that connection when there are going to be a lot of recruitment activities done online. That's it, really. Hopefully that's some top tips there.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's a really great overview of how we can make sure that all of our students really stand out when they're going for different jobs, whether it's with GE or within different areas of GE perhaps. I guess maybe we could finish with talking about what some tips for students might be when they're thinking now about their careers.
I think it's really important. You know, I'm sure there are lots and lots of pressures right now about you thinking about your career. I know I used to cry when I was, 7 doing my stats, thinking if I didn't do great in my stats, my life was over. And that probably perpetuated itself as I got older. It's really important right now in your life, if you want to, if a doctor wants to be a doctor, a student wants to be a doctor, there's some very straight paths they should go down, but not all careers need you to follow a kind of strategic path. So I would really kind of look inwardly and ask yourself some questions around, what am I passionate about? What kind of business do I want to work for? What gets me out of bed in the morning? What motivates me? And really understand yourself. So there's some really good inward looking, I think I'd recommend every student to do, to think about what do they want from their life. And it's okay not to know that in its absolute clarity. I didn't wake up and think I want to be an early careers recruiter when I kind of left university, but I knew I really like people. I like problem solving, and in a way recruitment with processes, there are some problem solving. So think about things that kind of excite you. I know there's pressures possibly from peers and family maybe about going down a certain route, but if that doesn't inspire you, give you passion, it's really hard to get out of bed every day going to a job you don't love. So it's really important to apply for things that give you energy, give you joy, and you'll only know that by kind of inward looking first.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Gemma. That's been really insightful. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries. Bye. Bye.
I have Dan and Tracy from GE with me here today, and we're going to be asking them just a few questions about what they do. So first of all, can you both introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your role? Tracy, would you like to go first?
Hi there, thank you, Charlotte. I'm Tracy Gaston, and I run our engineering degree apprenticeship programme for GE Aviation, which is a level 6 programme to bachelor's degree level. So very exciting opportunity. So it's a 5-year programme, and I look for students to join us who have either 3 A levels or an equivalent BTEC extended diploma, so maybe in engineering. But the A levels that I look for are all primarily STEM based, so we definitely need a maths A level because that's most important in the world of engineering. And then definitely also a second STEM based A level, which could either be physics, or more often now some schools are offering electronics A levels or computer studies A levels, or product design, things like that, design and technology. So I'm seeing a lot more applicants now applying to us with 3 really strong STEM A levels, which is fantastic. So the programme itself is a 5-year programme, and so instead of going to university full-time, if you can just see this as a part-time university option. So I think a few years ago, apprenticeships used to have the reputation that maybe if you weren't bright enough to go to university, you'd have to do an apprenticeship instead, but that's absolutely not the case. It's absolutely the equivalent of going to university full-time, but you're just doing that study on a part-time basis. And there's lots of pros to taking an apprenticeship route now, because number one, I think your bachelor's degree, your study gets funded by the company that you're working for. More importantly, in my eyes, you actually then end up with a good 4 or 5 years work experience alongside your study. but also to that from a financial perspective, you're actually being paid a really competitive salary for 5 years instead of actually then building up student debt from having to pay university fees and living fees. So actually the financial difference in the two options is quite considerable. But for me, in the world of engineering, I think the most important thing is that actually people have that really valuable work experience at the end of the programme, as well as the bachelor's degree, which is fantastic.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Definitely like the sound of not having the debt after the as well, yeah. Fab, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Dan, first of all, tell us a bit about yourself as well.
Hi, so I'm Dan Nichols, and I'm the overall Engineering Early Careers Leader for GE Aviation Systems, and super excited to be taking part in Industrial Cadets Week. So while I've got overall responsibility for the programme Tracy just talked about, I'm also responsible for recruiting and developing engineering graduates. And within GE, we have a programme called Edison, the Edison Engineering Development Programme. And it actually started all the way back in 1923. It's one of the oldest graduate programmes in the world, and it's been running in GE ever since. And one of the unique things about the Edison programme is, as well as rotations and work experience when you join GE, as well as needing an engineering degree to get onto the programme, we like to continue that technical development by doing weekly classes. So whatever you've studied, whether you've studied software engineering or systems engineering or electronics or aerospace, we will then focus on the specific things that you need to be a great engineer at GE. So in each different GE business, in healthcare, they focus on courses that would give you instruction on MRI machines, which are developed by GE. In the engines part of aviation, we'll focus on jet engines and how they work. In our part of the business, which is more about electronics and software and systems, obviously our classes are more along those lines. So Edison's, when they join the business, as well as doing 3 rotations weekly, they're doing these classes which top up their university knowledge for the specific skills that they need to work within GE. And then the second year, they'll do a similar thing alongside their projects, except they'll do it in teams. So as well as focusing on technical skills, they're learning what it means to be a great team player within an engineering team. Because in our industry, like in most engineering companies in the world now, there's no one person that does everything. Everything is about teamwork. So when we're looking for our Edisons, one of the things we're really focusing on is people who really have respect for other people, can work in teams, can lead teams, and realise the value of a team with differences, where everybody isn't the same, because we see that that's where the really innovative ideas come from.
Wow, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I guess my next question leading on from that is, what would you normally find in the degree apprenticeship and the graduate programme? Are these things that our graduates or students can choose to take part in, or do they get to experience a range of different roles, I suppose, under the programmes? Oh, it sounds like you're on mute there, Tripper. Do you want to try again?
Well, sorry.
No worries.
My husband and son came back, and I didn't want Dan's talk on Edison to be interrupted. So,
no worries at all. So yeah, could you tell us a bit more about what sort of things students might be doing on the degree apprenticeship?
So all of our students on the degree apprenticeship will all study for the same bachelor's degree, which is in electronic and computer engineering, because we've helped design that degree programme to actually fit the needs of our business. And the flavour of engineers that we develop in our company are either systems engineers, software engineers, or electronics engineers. So the degree has all of those different elements to help people go on to become a software systems or electronics engineer. So even though the degree is the same for everybody, then the rotation opportunities that the apprentices have are all different, really. So in the first couple of years of the programme, they'll rotate and do 6-month rotations in those core areas so that they all try and get a basic understanding of some software, some electronics, some systems engineering, some test, and some of the basic skills that we need them to have, but actually then in years 4 or 5 they can have a lot more say in the area of the business that they're really keen to see, and they have a lot more choice over what rotations that they'd like to start specialising in the final couple of years of the programme, whilst they start thinking about what job they want to do when they graduate. So, and also the professional development opportunities that they get across the 5-year programme, again, can be completely different for everybody. Some choose to get involved in our Girls Get Set programme and promote STEM careers to more younger females. Dan mentioned our Imagineering programme. Some of them get to lead that, where we do various shows around the country. And, you know, we have a number of different STEM outreach activities, and actually all of them, you know, can get involved in supporting them, leading them, running them, organising events. So actually their journeys can be a bit different. We're just seeing our first cohort going through endpoint assessments this year. And, you know, they've all had different experiences across the 5 years of the programme. So it's really interesting to see.
Fantastic. It sounds so, there's so much variation, and as I said, a number of different routes that it could end up being.
And so many different projects to go on to as well. So, you know, they all have different experiences on different projects with different technologies and different customers. So it really is, yeah, there's lots of variety and lots of room for shaping the journey that you want to have during the apprenticeship, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Dan, do you have anything on top of that you want to add, in particular to our graduate programme?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some similar elements in terms of rotations. You know, with the Edison graduate programme, it's only 2 years instead of 5. So we do only have time for 3 rotations. And because, particularly at the Cheltenham site where we're based, we have so many different products, you know, from cockpit display systems to avionics networking systems, which move all the information around the aircraft, to power distribution, where once the power is actually generated in an engine, power has to get to everything from the cockpit to the galley to the seatback TVs and anything on the aircraft that needs electric power. So all those different systems are developed at the Cheltenham site. So there's never going to be enough time in 2 years to try everything. But the great thing is you do get to try some different things. So as our graduates come in with either a bachelor's or a master's degree, they've probably studied aerospace or systems or software or electronics engineering. But that doesn't necessarily limit what you can do. You do get to try some of the different disciplines. So we've had electronics engineers that have taken a software rotation. We've had systems engineers that have decided to do some hardware and some mechanical engineering. And very often you just do those things to strengthen your more broad awareness of what those disciplines are. But we do have cases. We had somebody who rolled off the programme this year into a software role, and she studied electronics engineering. And more exciting than just the software role, she actually went to work in cybersecurity. So it was not even a job that she considered growing up or while she was studying. It actually came about as a result of a conversation at one of our STEM events. So the manager of the cybersecurity area happened to be volunteering when we had a group of Year 11 students come in for the day. They had a conversation. 3 months later, she was rotating in the area. And now her job title is Cybersecurity Investigator, which seems like a really cool job.
Yeah.
So, the great thing about both the Edison programme and the apprenticeship programme is just because you have an interest when you join GE, we have a whole bunch of other areas you can explore. And much the same as the apprenticeship as well, because we're needing to develop our engineers with a set of competencies. You know, we're helping them work towards being incorporated engineer high-eng. We're helping them work towards chartership, C-eng. And besides technical skill and competence in those areas, you also need someone who has leadership experience, someone who's worked in teams, someone who understands how the business impacts sustainability, someone who's continuing to develop themselves. So if you just do the same thing and the things you're good at for the whole of the Edison program or the apprenticeship program, you'll just get a really narrow set of skills. And actually, I think for today's developing world, you know, our engineers need to be broad. They need to be able to adapt. And really, you know, much like the graduate that I mentioned, who had no idea that she could become a cybersecurity investigator, you know, the people listening to this video, there are jobs that you will be doing in your lifetime that don't even exist at the moment. So really, it's about developing a set of skills that are going to set you up for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
It's amazing. It sounds like there's so much yet to expand on, and in the programmes, I just absolutely love that there are some jobs that we don't know exist yet, or there's even just some jobs that you might find yourself doing that line up with the skills that you develop through these programmes that you hadn't even considered maybe at the beginning. So I guess you've spoken a bit about skills that students will have beforehand and ones that they'll gain. What are you looking for your graduates to begin the programme, so your apprenticeship and your graduate programme? Do you look for things like extracurricular activities, or what sort of things stand out for you?
Definitely, it's definitely all the other stuff. You know, I think the good qualifications, the STEM A levels, you know, the good grades are just the minimum bar to actually even get through the first stage of CV Sift or the equivalent BTEC in engineering. But it is everything else that makes the real difference, because I've been recruiting software engineers for, I don't know, 20 years or so, and it used to be simple. You used to just look for the technical experts, you know, and the top grades. But it's completely changed engineering. It's so much more than that now. And actually, I think most importantly for me is finding young people that genuinely do have an interest in working with other people, genuinely want to help and support other people, because like Dan said, in our business and many businesses these days, everything we do is in a huge team of people. You know, our systems are so complex, we could never develop one of those systems on our own, and we just need to work with so many different people. So we're all just parts of a jigsaw puzzle. You know, nobody can know everything or do everything, and we all need lots and lots of good people around us to support and help, and you know, discuss ideas with and help solve problems to actually make our systems come together. So it's all the extra things that I look for. So have they taken the initiative to, you know, be part of a club, especially if they're applying for a technology or engineering based career? You know, are they part of a science club? Do they dabble with electronics stuff in their own time? Do they try and break things and fix things at home, you know, even if it's the remote control or one of their parents' phones? Do they do a bit of computer programming at home? You know, I think if somebody dabbles in some stuff at home, you can see that there's a real genuine interest and a genuine passion there. It's not something they're being made to do at school. But also any part-time job, you know, can give you teamwork skills and can give you, you know, good self-organization and time management skills. It's, you know, if you're holding down a job, even if it's a paper round or a part-time job in a supermarket, you've got to be reliable. You know, people are relying on you to turn up and do that job. So even something like that will give you lots of employability skills that you might not consider, or you might not think is important in an engineering career. Any competitions or clubs? So we've had people that have entered electronics competitions or cyber competitions because they've had such an interest, and again that shows, you know, just how passionate they are about technology and engineering, which is great. So if people have used their own initiative to maybe organise a fundraising event at school, or some kind of club or committee at school, that shows really good initiative and somebody being proactive. And, you know, just somebody going the extra mile. It's school is tough. You know, there's a lot of great students at school that come out with a lot of great grades, you know, but unfortunately, if it's, you know, you've just got to try and get yourself involved in other things. So whether it's Duke of Edinburgh schemes, whether it's being part of Air Cadets, scouting or guiding or things like that, you know, they all give young people such great life skills and employability skills that can really help feed into a first job or a first apprenticeship and help you get past the CV stage just on your A-level results alone.
And these are things that students watching this might be thinking about doing or taking part in, and not quite sure, I guess, maybe if it's useful in the future. And I think you covered such a wide range of activities there, from after school clubs to jobs to doing things in your own time at home. These all contribute to your application and to developing these skills. Dan, any other words on that? I know Tracy covered quite a good amount there, but is there anything you'd like to add on top of that?
Yeah, I would say, for students going through to full-time university and then coming onto a graduate scheme like the Edison graduate scheme at GE, I would say number one is a placement, either a summer placement or a year internship, which, I guess it answers the question of, can you, do you actually have what it takes to come into the world of work from university? Because it is a big change, and university is really hard. It's not that work isn't necessarily harder, it's just very different. And actually understanding what that's like and being able to demonstrate that, and most importantly, to have real work examples to talk through at an interview, just makes a graduate candidate stand out. And for the individuals themselves, going to work at a company for a year or even a summer can tell you a lot about that company, both in terms of, is that somewhere you would like to work in the future, or is it not somewhere where you'd like to work? And I've even seen students change their degree and change their final year projects based on their placement, because they were sort of set on a particular industry or company, and then having spent some time there, realised maybe it wasn't for them. So actually, finding that out early is going to be so much more important. And it's never going to be a wasted time either, because even if you end up going to work somewhere completely different, that work experience, that real project experience that you got, that experience with working with people who are potentially the same age as your parents or even your grandparents. When you come into work, not everybody is the same age. There's a whole range of different ages and experience. And, there's not hierarchy based on that age. They're all colleagues. So it's a very different thing. And interacting with a team with a range of backgrounds, experience and ages is really different. But that's what makes a great team, because, that variety is what leads to the innovation that we really look for. And I think just in terms of, the extra things from experience, I interviewed somebody yesterday for next year's graduate programme who had taken part in the EDT EES scheme. She got a gold award out of it. And, she used one of her examples in the technical interview. And because they'd gone quite deep technically, even though that was 3 or 4 years ago, it was still a really valid example. So, far from just making her stand out on the CV sift, that was actually something she was able to bring into her interview. So really, the more you do, the more you've got to talk about. But obviously, you've got to balance that with, time to study, time to relax and do things that are fun. So I think the real skill is finding something that's not only fun and relaxing, but also enhances your CV as well.
Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you, both of you, so much. This was really valuable conversation, and you both brought up some really excellent points. And thanks for telling us so much about your degree apprenticeship and graduate programme at GE Aviation. That's all we have time for today. So thank you very much for coming along. And we hope you enjoyed watching at home as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Great being here.
Thank you very much. I hope our students have found it really useful.
Thanks.
Thank you to Gemma, Tracy and Dan for that really unique insight into GE, as well as some really great advice, some takeaways there for all the students and teachers and parents watching today. So fun-packed morning, and we're back to this afternoon at 1:30. Use the same link. We've got further insight into GE, some more insight into individuals, as well as a Q&A employer panel session this afternoon. So feel free to send your questions through the Q&A function on here, and we will get those questions answered this afternoon. So have a great break, and we'll see you at 1:30. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and thank you for rejoining after the break on day 2 of the Industrial Cadets Week. This morning we had a great introduction from Marilisa and Rosalind about GE, an interesting panel session with their graduates and apprentices, followed by an interview with early careers specialists who gave us lots of hints and tips around recruitment for us to take away. This afternoon, we're going to continue to explore further into GE. I'm delighted to welcome Marilisa back this afternoon's session, starting with an insight into Marilisa, her current role as co-head of community investment. So welcome, Marilisa.
Thank you so much, Amy. I truly am delighted to be here. And I want to say as well, a big welcome to all of you listening, and welcome to this afternoon session of our Insight into GE Day during Industrial Cadets Week. We hope today will give you a glimpse into how we rise to the challenge of building a world that works. So just to introduce myself, my name is Marilisa Vega. I have been at GE for nearly 6 years now. Before that, I was back home in my country, Panama, which is in Central America. And here at GE, I co-lead the Community Investment Program, as Amy was saying. And this program use our strengths as a company and the talents of our volunteers to have a positive social impact in the communities where GE people live and work. There's a hashtag that we use on our social media channels that quite describes how I'm feeling right now, and that's hashtag GE Proud. So I want to thank the EDT for giving GE the stage today to share what makes us all so proud to work for this company. And that's its incredible people and the glue that holds us together, which is a love of STEM and innovation. So for more than 125 years, GE has been building a world that works more efficiently, reliably, and safely, inventing the future of industry. So starting from our founder, Thomas Edison, and his incandescent light bulb, which we use now every day, and the first technologies to power entire neighborhoods, to the most recent, latest jet engine brimming with internet-connected sensors and 3D printed parts, or even the world's largest offshore wind turbine. Today, GE is best known for its work in the power, renewable energy, aviation, and healthcare industries. So this morning you heard from my colleague Rosalind and myself about some of the incredible innovations happening at GE right here in the UK and all over the world. So what makes that all possible? Well, it's having a global team of curious minds who genuinely care about tackling some of the biggest global environmental, social, and health challenges, and then building the solutions that make the world work better. So at GE, I co-lead, within the Community Investment Program, I co-lead a program called STEM Inspiration. So everyone that you've heard from or will hear from today is what at GE we call a STEM inspirer. So those are people that are just so passionate about their own fulfilling careers that they want to shout about it from the rooftops and inspire young people to explore all the exciting possibilities of a career in STEM. So the STEM Inspiration Program exists at GE because, although it's hard to believe, there is a shortage of engineers in the UK. We get it. For a long time, there's been a misconception that engineers are all about hard hats, heavy lifting, and oily coveralls. But the truth is, engineers look like you and me. Machines get to do all the heavy lifting these days, and it's really just up to the engineers to problem solve and put their brains to work to design a better world. So when they're not working on safely delivering people where they need to go, or powering homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses, and offering more precise diagnostics and care when patients need it most, our STEM Inspirers are going into schools, signing on to video calls like this one, visiting career fairs and science festivals, inviting young people like yourselves to imagine the contributions you could make through a career in engineering. So we have programs like Girls Get Set, which encourages young women to consider careers in STEM through group engineering projects, competitions, and soft skills workshops. And we have partnerships with amazing charities like the EDT that allow us to take part in events like this one, as well as, you know, the Inspire and Head Start courses and all the other great work that the EDT does. And now that we can't go into schools or run face-to-face events, two of our STEM inspirers, who you'll hear from today, actually, Hannah and Sydney, they decided we couldn't let that stop us. So they created a program called #STEMTogether, so we can continue to run activities, but virtually. So what STEM Together is all about is basically you can choose from 5 projects. A mission to Mars, another one called Unsustainable, which explores the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the future of flight, Hack at STEM, and Disaster Drone. And each week there's a new challenge within those projects. So we're also running Imagine with GE skills workshops and career inspiration sessions, so you can develop skills like being a better presenter and communicator, building your confidence, networking on and offline, having a leadership presence, and building your own personal brand, and much more. The great news is, as well, that by completing one project and a few Imagine with GE sessions, you can achieve a silver level Industrial Cadets Award. And if you complete 2, you can actually go for the gold. So that's just another example of how teamwork and collaboration makes good things great. So a big thanks to the Industrial Cadets team at the EDT for making that all possible. So if you're now super interested in STEM Together, it's really easy to sign up. You just go to www.gecommunity.co.uk and follow the pop-up for students, teachers, and parents, or type and Google #STEMTogether, and you'll easily find our website. All you have to do is get started. So I hope you've enjoyed the day so far, and you agree with me that we have lots to be #GE proud about. I want to again thank the EDT and the Industrial Cadets team for giving us this opportunity to imagine together during Industrial Cadets Week. And now I'm really excited to introduce the next session called Insight Into. So we're going to hear from some of GE's amazing people, the ones building a world that works every day. They all come from different roles and experience levels, and they're all secretly hoping that one day, maybe you will be their new colleague. So we really hope you enjoy the rest of this afternoon. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy hearing from my colleagues.
I'm a senior sales operations manager in GE Power. So that's the gas part of GE Power. I own a global engineering quotation process. I'm based in Rugby, but I work globally. And right now I'm at home in Coventry. Damon, let us know about you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Damon Ballinger. I'm manufacturing training and apprentice manager for Doughty Propellers. I look after 3 cohorts of apprentices that we have going through the shop. We've also got degree apprentices, and we're just starting with some business apprentices in the new year, so it's very exciting. My other hat is I look after all the training for all our operators out on the shop floor, making sure they know what they're doing and they're authorised to do it.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicola Murphy. I'm a controls hardware engineering team leader based in Stafford in the West Midlands as part of the GE Renewable Energies business and Grid Integrated Solutions focusing on HVDC power transmission worldwide.
What's the name for? My name is Francisco Zamora. I work for GE Aviation, so I'm a field service engineer. I'm normally based at Heathrow, the British Airways hangar, but obviously now working from home at the moment.
Great, thanks guys. So I'd like to ask somebody a question first to start off with. So could I ask Nicola, please, what does your typical day look like?
Okay, my typical day, because we are quite a global business, starts with almost basically traveling around the world, but virtually. So I have calls with our customer for one of our projects in Korea, starting quite early in the morning, and we're talking about various things through transfer of competency training through to project delivery. I also work on projects in India and Germany as well. So I literally do, as the time zones change, keep going around, and it's working with our customers, working with our engineers who are still working on site, even though some of us are working from home right now, and coordinating not just the overall design of the control system for the project, but also the delivery of the on-site pre-commissioning, commissioning of each of our projects.
Great, thank you. Damon, same for you, please.
It almost sounds like a bit of a cliche, but I've been in engineering for 30 years and no day is really typical. Every day is different, sometimes a little bit crazy, sometimes a little bit but every day is different. Problem solving really is every day, you know, be it a lack of a trained operator on the shop floor, or we've got a bit of a gap in another part of the business that we've got to plug with some training to get everybody up and running. So it can be a bit crazy sometimes. And then if we add in the mix of, I've got 10 apprentices out on the shop floor on rotation at the minute, they've all got different needs to keep them trained up and going through their training plans as well. We also have a number of other little functions my team looks after, as well as the training. For the shop guys, we also look after some wider business training. So we get to touch the whole business, and it's all about people and making sure people have got the right skills in the right place to try and keep the production line going. So it can be very fast paced some days, and some days it can be a little quieter, although I haven't found one of those quieter days yet. So good fun.
And David, what do you produce? What sort of things are you?
So our business is making propellers. We predominantly for aircraft. We put them on the C-130J Hercules military aircraft. We've also got them on the de Havilland Dash 8 aircraft and a whole bunch of others. We've also got a couple of hovercraft blades that we make propellers for as well, for the US military. So yeah, made out of carbon fiber composite material these days. We've still got some older products in service that are made out of metal. And believe it or not, we're still responsible for wooden propellers for the few remaining flying Spitfires that are kicking around the world. So we get inquiries about them about once a year. We get an inquiry for a concession or an engineering decision. So it can be quite wide and varied the day, absolutely. But really cool cutting edge stuff. I mean, carbon fiber composite material is very wacky and high skill environment. So we've got quite a job to keep everybody trained up to the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because obviously we both work in GE Aviation and you work in the manufacturing side and getting things ready and out, but I work in the other side of the spectrum, which is we have a product which is on an airplane, and then my role is to keep it going.
Keep it on the wing, not take it off. Absolutely.
Exactly. And the day-to-day, for instance, would be having questions from the customer when they have, say, an oil leak or they find the vibration level that is not the way it should be. And then we are kind of the first line of defense, if you will, from a technical perspective, to say to the customer, to the airlines, okay, I think you should do this, I think you should do that, based obviously on our engineering knowledge and based on the manuals that we have and so on. So just interesting that you're like the start end and we are the end bit.
It's quite interesting as well because we've got a new factory in Gloucester at the moment. We moved in earlier this year, and what we have got in here is we've got the repair side of the business in the same building as the manufacturing side of the business. So it's been quite a journey for us. We've never been in the same building before, so you can imagine that a whole host of challenges to get in again. But we do get repair and overhaul products in that have been taken off the wing. We've got to turn around. We have about 30 days to fix them, test them, and get them back out to the customer. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And what about you, Lisa? What's your day to day? What do you do?
Probably the same as you guys. No day's ever the same, but I do have a kind of routine that I can go through when, same as Nicola, I work across the globe, so it's often a case of catching up with the emails that have come in overnight to start with, making sure that there's no issues in my responsibility from the start of the day. I own and manage the commercial side of an engineering quotation process, so my
business, if you like, is all and the processes around quotations, particularly engineered solutions. So it's mostly gas turbines, but we do see some steam products and some boiler and generator and so on as well going through there too. So I own that particular piece where the quotes are requested and we send them into the engineering team, but also looking after kind of the engineering part as well. And then when it comes back, how we convert that order, that quote into an order as well. So there's a lot of problem solving and investigation. When something goes wrong in the system, you have to work backwards and using your network of people as well to understand who you can tap on the shoulder of and say, oh, this bit's stuck, or it's gone wrong again, or help, and that kind of thing. So you do build up a huge, everybody does in their job, you know, you're not the only person that solves problems. You hunt around and get people in your network to help you too. So it's having that global web of people that you can tap on the shoulder of, which is probably the most valuable part of my day entirely. So yeah, it's I think for me that's probably the most fun part of my job as well, the fact that I can solve problems and I can help people. That's just suits me no end. Damon, what's the best, most rewarding part of your job?
Oh, I get a real buzz when I get a successful apprentice, if I'm honest. It's a 3-year journey for them. When we onboard them right from sometimes 16 years old, straight off GCSEs. We onboard them onto the program. We put them through the academic side of stuff through our college provider, but you know, we get them around the shop. And when they get a permanent role at the end of that, you know, and everybody's singing their praises, what a great, you know, apprentice this person is. We want to hire them. You know, they get a permanent role. It's a real buzz. You know, and every journey is different for these folk. You know, some struggle with different things and have different challenges. And when it's a proud moment. It's that proud dad moment almost. You know, we've got another cohort through, so that gives me a real buzz in the morning.
I like that. I was an apprentice. That's how I came into my job 25 years ago. So yeah, that was. I said that quietly, obviously, but yeah, brilliant. I loved my apprenticeship. Nicola, how did you get to your job, and what's the best part of it?
So I started as a graduate with. A few years ago, now 9 years ago, I started as a graduate, worked my way through the graduate development program that we had in Stafford at the time, and then moved into HVDC full-time afterwards. So for the I've worked on multiple projects, different countries, done a lot of traveling, which has been amazing. And it's the traveling aspect and being able to work with international teams and build that network, like you mentioned before, Lisa, is probably one of the most rewarding parts of my job, is getting to work with all these different people, learn from their experiences and share mine with them as well, and just building up all the different knowledge bases that you can get and rely on in the future as you continue to develop through your career. And then our projects are long. I've just finished a project that's been 7 years in the making. I started on day 1. I've stopped on day 7 years later. I've stopped on that final day, and seeing something from start to finish, going through the problems that we've had on it, the successes that we've had on it, and we've delivered something that now can generate and transmit power to 1 million houses with green energy in northern Germany is huge for us, and something like that is really special.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Yeah, well done.
What about you, Francisco?
I guess what I really love is that I think it's the same like you guys. No day is the same. There are always different questions. You always keep learning. And it's really interesting to see how the whole team comes together for an end result, which is the customer. For instance, when I get those calls and then there is an issue, and if I'm able to fix it, then it means that someone may be able to go on holiday as planned, or someone may attend that wedding as they wanted to, or someone may just go somewhere that they wanted to go to. And so it's really, I don't know, satisfactory to think that you've helped in a way to make that happen. And you're just that little end bit of that huge team that is behind you to make it happen. So yeah, it's really cool.
David, tell us a little bit about how you got to where your job is now.
Oh, crikey. So I left school at 18 after A-levels, and I joined the Royal Air Force, and I spent 23 years in the RAF as an aircraft engineer. Did lots of crazy things, moved around lots. Loved working on aircraft. It really got into my bones, and I still haven't been able to shake it off now, despite every effort. So I left the RAF 7 years ago now, and moved into Gloucestershire, and the GE Aviation site in Cheltenham is a big site. Lots of cool avionics and electrical power stuff going on with aircraft. So I natural fit. I moved into there, and I headed up the customer training team for 4 years. Great job, loved it. You know, talking to people like Francisco all over the world, you know, who needed training on our products so they could keep the aircraft flying. And I had a bunch of guys there that we just went around the world training people on GE's products. Real fun. And then I moved into this job over at Doughty's. Slightly different slant, still within the training world. You probably worked out by now I like talking. So keeping the training world, right? So now I get to run an apprentice program, which is absolutely fab. I love that part of my job, and I love the day-to-day sort of keeping the production line going with getting people trained up to do their job. So it's fab.
Cool. Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is everybody, you know, we've all got this experience of where an engineering career has taken us, and it's all quite different in some respects. You know, that has just been the springboard to get us to where we are today, and who knows where we'll end up as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it sounds like you went very different ways. I went more kind of the traditional way, if you will, which was university. Then I did a master's, and so like more like a scholar way, right, on the hands-on approach. And I can definitely see the differences, obviously, between both, and the benefits and pros and cons of both. So yeah, it's not a single channel, isn't it, to get to where you are, and you always learn from different. And when people like Damon, who's hands-on and who's had that experience, comes into, for example, a team with people like me, who's more like, I don't know, theory kind of education, you really make a good team and a good connection, don't you? And that's really nice to see.
Absolutely. Everybody's journey is different, and yeah, the differences we bring to a team are where the real strengths come from.
Right.
Definitely. It's everyone's experiences that really develops that team and brings the crazy ideas that solve the problem at the end of the day that 9 people wouldn't think of, but the 10th person, it just comes into their head because they've seen it once as an apprentice at 16, or they've seen it in a previous career in, say, like yourself, Damon, in the RAF, and they just bring all of those things together, and you really do solve a lot of problems just through the experiences that multiple people have had in their backgrounds.
Yeah.
Great. I think that's a brilliant point to end our conversation on. So thank you, everybody. It's been fabulous to meet you and obviously work with you as well. And I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hello, I'm Annabelle. I'm here with Damien and Fifi, and we're all from GE. So to give a quick overview of what GE is. GE is a big American company, and we operate in 4 key areas. So that's renewable energy, power, aviation, and healthcare. So hopefully we'll be able to give you a bit of an overview about what we do and how we got here. Should I go in with kind of what my job role is?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I work in government affairs and communications, and that spans all of those 4 GE businesses in the UK. So I'm kind of in a split role there, and I report to the leader of government affairs on one side, and then the leader of communications on the other side. And what might be a bit different to you guys, but this is a kind of an entry-level position that I've just applied to, that I found online. I think most people kind of that are in their early careers at GE usually are on some kind of grad scheme or in kind of internship program. What was your route into it?
Yeah, so I mean, I can go on from there because I'm actually on a program as well within GE. So it's so like you said, we've got graduate programs, but then when you reach a certain area in your career, you also have these accelerated leadership program, which is what I'm on, called the XLP. And again, these are great opportunities to actually see the business because, as you mentioned, GE is huge, right? And so with the XLP program, you get to see all sorts of different roles and see which one you really like. And that's a good segue to what my role is. So I'm actually a global marketing leader for the healthcare business, specifically in an area in healthcare called molecular imaging. Right now, I wasn't always a marketing leader. I actually, as a nerd, that's how I started in GE Healthcare about 5 years ago as a software engineer, and now I'm doing marketing. So it's a really great kind of opportunity to kind of, like I said, figure out what actually you really like, and actually find a home within a big company like GE. So what about you, Damien?
So I am a flight test engineer at Doughty Propellers, which is obviously owned by GE. So yeah, I travel around and test propellers all over the world. Yeah.
How did you get into that, Damien?
So I started off by doing an apprenticeship at a different company called Safran, which is an aviation company. And then I was basically made redundant at the end of my apprenticeship. And Doughty Propellers was next door. So I actually walked around and knocked on the door and said, "Do you have any jobs for a newly qualified apprentice?" And they actually said no, but we really like what you've done, so we'll see what we can do. And then, yeah, that was 9 years ago. So yeah, I've moved on from that, and I've had several roles. So as a workshop engineer, a field service engineer, again, traveling over, servicing the propellers all over the world, and now in my current role as a flight test engineer, I carry on to do the same, and lots of other things, because I get lots of opportunity to look at things that are different. So I'm a black belt, which you guys will know, but people watching won't. It's process improvement methodology. So you learn how to improve the business that we work for. Yeah.
So you took the apprenticeship route. That's quite interesting. So because I kind of decided to do A-levels and then uni and just didn't really know what I wanted to do. Just decided to get experience in the summer holidays and the Easter holidays as much as possible. That's definitely one piece of advice I would give to anyone watching, is just do a wide variety of things and kind of get a feel for what's out there. But what about you, Fifi? Did you do the uni route? Or?
So when I was 16, I had in my head that I wanted to be a lawyer. So my roles have changed quite a bit. So I had in my head I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't quite know what subjects to pick for it. So I did my GCSEs. I did it pretty okay in them, and then picked my A-levels in French, maths, and physics. I really liked my physics and maths. And then I did some research into how to become a lawyer and realized, there's a lot of reading in there. And actually, I did something quite different, which was actually change my one of my A-levels, which was French, which I really did like, to computing, right? And the reason why I did that really is because, I've always been really interested in computers, and I've been the kind of the house technician in my home. If anything breaks, give me your iPhone, whatever, I'll fix it. And I really like the idea of coding, and I was like, hey, well, this is something I've always been passionate about. Why not do it as a career sort of thing, and that's what made me change. And my advice really is, it's never too late to change. And, I didn't even figure out what I wanted to late into my A-levels, right? Some people don't even figure that out until after uni. So it's never too late. But one other thing I'll also say is, you need to put yourself out there to really try out different things, to really figure out it. Sometimes it doesn't come just like that. You need to try things and say, I actually really like this, and then map out your career path.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that, and definitely what you were saying about kind of changing your mind and not knowing what you want to do. And I'm sure like some of people that are watching this, maybe around GCSEs or looking at A levels, or if you want to do an apprenticeship or that kind of thing, I don't think I'd be able to, you know, when I was 16, know what I was doing now. Right. Yeah, so I definitely echo that it's never too late to change your mind, even after. So I did my undergraduate degree in politics, and then I kind of took a year out, did some internships in kind of PR companies and some kind of corporate areas. And then I noticed that I wanted to go back to uni, and I ended up doing a master's in business management. And then that's kind of led me to where I am today. I knew I wanted to work for kind of a multinational company, but that wasn't until I was 21, 22. So definitely at 16, I would just say try as much as you can and get as much experience, and don't be scared to change your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the decisions you make, they don't define you at that age. You can change your mind. It's all experience, and it will help you later on. Even if you make the wrong decision, it will help you make the right decision next time.
Yeah. And what kind of skills did you have, you know, back then that you learned that has actually helped you in your job today, actually, Damien?
Oh, let me see. So yeah, I use the things that I learned even before my apprenticeship. I still learn things. I've had lots of things that I've done which are probably not relevant, but I'll say it anyway. So I used to be a professional boxer. So I learned about, you know, hard work, discipline and respect, and I take that with me. So everything in life that you learn is all relevant to work, and the same, you learn things at work that will teach you things at home.
Yeah, I think that's such a relevant point, actually. And I think especially when I remember looking at what I wanted to do, and sometimes you have to write these personal statements for universities or things like that. And obviously at 16, 17, you don't have that much kind of real life work experience. So you draw on those kind of experiences if you're in sports teams, and that's taught you about teamwork and, as you said, discipline, or any other hobbies and that kind of thing. So as well as, you know, gaining work experience and placements, I would say that's as equally as important, you know, getting into those extracurricular activities, and you definitely develop kind of communication skills, teamwork skills, to the ability to self-motivate, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. So things such as being able to be in a situation where you have to keep persevering, otherwise, you know, you lose. And in terms of boxing, I completely understand that. You know, it's either the other guy or you, sort of thing. So you need to keep pushing through the pain and have that perseverance. I'm actually a little bit of a boxer too. I was actually an amateur boxer as well. And so one of the couple of skills that I've learned from previously into my current job is being able to like analyze the situation, and also as well as like problem solving skills. And these come in very handy in computing, also to be able to communicate to customers properly around what your what we'll call a value proposition, what you're offering the customer is, right? And that's what I'm working on at the moment, really. So there's all sorts of little skills and such that you would work, you know, you wouldn't really think you're learning, but just keep in mind out for those things. Like I said, problem solving, anything about analyzing problems, communication skills, you know, your willingness to persevere when it's a really challenging situation, right? It could be anything from that perspective. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we're all pretty unanimous in our kind of overall advice of gain as much experience as you can, and develop as many kind of skills as you can. So hopefully that's been useful to everyone watching.
Yep.
And good luck in your kind of future careers and pathways.
Yep.
We hope to see you one day.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Hamda Maya, and I work in GE Digital, and these are my colleagues who will introduce themselves.
So, hi, my name's Hannah. I work as a cyber investigator at GE Aviation.
Okay, and I'm Mick Stevens. I work as a controls engineer for the division of GE that make large power transformers.
Great. Okay.
Okay, so what made you decide that you wanted to work for GE?
So for me, I did an internship with GE Oil and Gas, which is now Baker Hughes, when I was after my second year of university. And what I discovered was that I wasn't really a fan of what I did there, but I really liked the people. So for me, I'm a real people person. So it's all about the people. So I had an amazing team, a great mentor. And so when I was trying to figure out where to go for a graduate scheme, GE was my first pick by such a long way, because if I could be with the people again who were like the people who I was when I was on my placement, then I'd be really happy. And I was lucky enough to get that. So I work at GE Aviation, where so at the moment I work at GE Aviation Systems. So when you think of GE Aviation, you might think of engines, but there's also the systems. So under your feet when you're in a plane, there's so many systems and things that go around. And I work in the cybersecurity, so making sure that people don't send stuff out of GE that's bad, or we don't get stuff into GE which is bad. So Hamda, what's it like working in STEM? Is it like what you expected?
I think it's more than what I expected. I always thought working in STEM would be quite structured and very organized. You know, everyone has their own particular role, and you know, you're all shoved off in your own corners to do what you need to do. But I'm lucky enough to realize that it's so much more to that, not only in a professional sense, but in a personal sense. You know, I get to be a role model or some sort of influence for my nieces and nephews. I get to increase in my confidence and learn so much about the company as a whole. So the sector that I work for is GE Digital, and my role title is Software Solution Integrator. And what that entails is that I work on it, so I help configure in a team a software that manages the electricity distribution in certain parts of the world. So we have customers like SSE, Scottish Power, UKPN, WPD, and then some across the world, Eskom in South Africa, Vattenfall in Sweden, and so on. And it's very much, it's both a communication sort of role, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you have that power machines background, so that when you're modeling the machines on the software, you know what you're talking about, and it's not sort of nonsense to you. But it's quite different to what I thought I would go into, to be honest. But I always had this perception of people who work in STEM would have like hard caps. Maybe STEM, or engineering in particular, you know, hard caps, high vis, all men. And I didn't think that, you know, for a long time, it took me a while to actually consider myself as an engineer. But I guess that really changed over the past couple of years. So Nick, what's the hardest or most challenging part of your job, would you say?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, my job is designing the control systems for power transformers. I started life at college studying electrical and electronic engineering. I went into the field service industry, repairing computerized systems on in shipping, land-based systems, worked in many industries, faced lots and lots of challenges. So I've been around the industry for, dare I say, almost 50 years. So wow. I've got quite a bit of experience. So I don't actually find my work to be challenging. It's got its small challenges, but nothing's overly difficult. What is difficult, it's balancing the workload. So every day is totally different, which is good. But that's probably the hardest thing. It's just juggling all the work that's coming in. You're getting queries from customer site, you're having to liaise with suppliers, customers, you've got the management on your back all the while. But to some extent that is exciting. And some of the hardest things is actually finding that the components that you need just are no longer manufactured. And but yeah, it's just makes the role exciting, really. I mean, challenges are good, so to speak. Yeah, what more can I say? Where are we going from here?
I have a question for you, Mick.
Yeah.
Are your consumers, are they customers, or are they like are they companies, or is it internal to GE?
Yeah. Well, we've got a combination. We do a lot of work internal for GE, which is we do the power transformers for the HVDC systems that we put out and about. We do a lot of transformers for National Grid and EDF. So EDF run all of the nuclear power stations in the UK. Before the electricity leaves the power station, it has to be adjusted to be a sensible voltage for transmission. So that's where one of our transformers comes in.
I see.
And also at National Grid sites, when they're balancing the load, they use our transformers. The HVDC is used mainly overseas, where you would have, for instance, a wind farm in a windy part of the country, but that's not where you need the power. You need the power, say, 300 miles away. But just to put it in a transmission line, by the time it gets there, it's lost some of its energy. So if you convert it to DC and then transmit it at DC and convert it back to AC, you actually lose less energy, although those links in themselves cost a lot of money. But you can't do that without a transformer at each end. So again, that's where our transformers come in. And a typical HVDC link requires about 12 transformers. And bearing in mind, each transformer is about 4 or 5 million. And they weigh about in excess of 200 tons each one. There's quite a big chunk. But again, that is probably a very small percentage of the overall project.
Oh wow!
So it's
very interesting.
It is interesting. It's a part of the controls industry that I hadn't worked at before I came to GE, because I started out at GEC, then I went to a couple of other companies working in different roles, and came back to what was Alstom. And then Alstom got bought out by GE.
By GE, yeah, that's right.
And in the sort of electrical distribution industry, it's a slightly new industry for me, but controls is controls. So it's a matter of using your transferable skills to jiggle around a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Engineering is all about transferable skills.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's what's great about STEM, and especially like you two are good examples, getting women into engineering. Something I would say there is, years ago, if to be an engineer, you had to be big, tough, strong, high vis, hard hat, because you were manhandling big things. That was engineering. But anything that has to be lifted into place now. If it weighs more than about 10 kilos, you're using a machine. So
Exactly.
it's about intelligence
Yeah.
and skills. And, you know, women have got just as much intelligence as men, if not more so in some areas. But I think it's very important for students to appreciate, you know, it's not a boundary.
Yeah.
Completely.
I 100% agree with that.
You obviously both agree, so
Yeah.
no longer a male industry.
Which is great. It's evolving.
Yeah,
which is amazing. It's amazing to hear. Yeah. What was your first day like, Hannah? Do you remember?
Oh, my first day. So I had 2 first days. Well, I had a lot of first days actually. So when I did a graduate scheme, so I was on the Edison Engineering Development Programme, which was a graduate scheme. And so I had an actual first day when I started, you know, at GE again. But then I had a first day on the 3 different rotations that I did, because, you know, they're all, you know, you're still doing the same thing. You're still meeting your teams and getting everything downloaded, you know, everything's still, you know, a bit scary. So I think everything was still definitely a bit scary. I mean, every one of those. But it was all about growing my network. So knowing that there are people around me who I can go and ask questions, and making sure that I meet people, and making sure that everything's kind of like okay, and that I know what I need to do and who I can go to ask, you know, if I need help with anything. Because yeah, I was in three different teams, 3 different rotations, 3 different buildings even, and so everyone felt new. But it's good, you know, I think you get used to it.
Yeah. I had 2 first days as well, as in my first one was when I was an intern, and then I finished off my degree, and then I came back as a full-time employee. And like you said, yeah, regardless, it is a bit of a scary feeling, you know, new environment, it's a change. Although my internship was in somewhat the same position, it's just the change from student to professional. That sort of, I guess it's good nervous. It's exciting nervous, and it's normal to have that. I didn't know what to expect, but at the same time, I did know what to expect. It was a great feeling, and I had, just like you, I have an amazing team who are really supportive, and yeah, I wouldn't trade them for the world.
Right.
Okay, so I think we can wrap up here.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys. It was a good discussion. It was great learning about your positions.
Great.
Yeah. Likewise. Okay.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Those videos gave us a fascinating insight into the different areas of opportunity within GE. We have found out lots about the individual pathways into careers now and what their days are like, though we have also learned that most days are not the same. It's now time to move over to our live question and answer session with a panel of employees from GE. As we transfer over, please put any questions that you might have had throughout the day during any of the sessions in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. We will try and get as many answered as possible in the time that we have. We are transferring over now to the live panel where my colleague Steph will conduct the session. I hope you enjoyed the next 40 minutes, and remember, there's no such thing as a silly question, so please do answer away.
Okay, hi, and welcome to this employer panel with GE today. I am Steph, I'm from EDT, and I'm going to help to facilitate this session for you. So I am joined by 6 lovely members of the GE team who are here to share their experience and a bit about their role with you today. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'll pass over to each of them in turn, and they will be able to give a bit of an introduction as to who they are, a bit about their job role, and a little bit about what they particularly enjoy about their job. And then we'll hand over to you guys as students to put any questions you'd like to put to them, to each of them. So they've got various bits of background, they've come from various parts of GE, so it should be a really nice broad insight into working with this company. So I think without further ado, I will hand over to them, and we will start with Lisa, if you'd like to go first.
Hi, thanks everybody. Yeah, I'm Lisa Cobble. I work for GE in the gas power part of the business, and my responsibility is for an engineering quotation process and system that works globally. We quote for gas power parts, but also some boiler, steam, generator, etc. parts. And so it's the process that I manage is where the commercial team will request a quotation from the engineering team. The engineering team have to process that quote by putting in parts and proposal details, etc., and sending it back. We also manage the order conversion part of that process. So when we win the order from the customer, then we have to make sure that the data passes through to the other systems. So my role is very technical as far as making the systems work, making sure the data is right across multiple systems and the connections are working correctly, but also building new functionality, training people, and dealing on a day-to-day basis with people and solving their problems in the system. So the best part for me, for my job, is that it actually ticks millions of boxes in the fact that I love helping people. I like working with different people across different cultures, and I also like making improvements in things. So I think it just ticks every box for me right now.
Great, thank you, Lisa. And then we'll hand over to Margaret.
Hi everyone, my name's Margaret, and I'm on the engineering degree apprenticeship scheme at GE Aviation, which I started after having done my A-levels at school. So on the engineering degree apprenticeship, I study part-time for a degree, and that's a degree in electronic and computer engineering with UE in Bristol. So one day a week I'll go down to UE, or at the moment I'll be in my bedroom online for my uni lectures. And then the other 4 days a week I am in work, and I do different rotations around the business on different projects, meeting lots of different teams, lots of different people. And I absolutely love being able to go to uni, learn some stuff, and then go back to work, and then use the stuff that I've learned at uni in my everyday job. I remember the first time I looked at a schematic and saw a component that I hadn't learned in school that I'd learned new at university, and I saw it and I was like, I know what that is. I know what it does. So that's what I really love about the apprenticeship.
Brilliant, thank you, Margaret. And then moving on to Andres, please.
Hello, my name is Andres. I finished 2 years ago. I finished my A-levels back in Spain, and I came to the UK and I started studying software engineering at Bournemouth University. I recently joined GE, the healthcare branch, 3 months ago, and I'm a software engineer intern. And what we do in the team is we develop any sort of tool that can help improve the medical clinical workflow. It goes from anything from developing, for example, an app that can help decide what the amount of contrast agent, for example, you need to give to a patient, to creating AI tools to improve the workflow.
Great, thank you. And then moving on to Hannah, who's here as STEM Together.
Hi, my name's Hannah. I'm a cyber investigator at GE Aviation, which sounds really cool, doesn't it? So I did an electronic engineering degree, and then by doing the Edison Engineering Development Program graduate scheme, I managed to find my way into a cybersecurity career. And so essentially my job is to find bad guys for a living. Sounds really cool, doesn't it? I really like it. And so I finished the graduate scheme in August, and so what I really like is that everything's really new to me still, so I'm learning a huge amount. And yeah, you can learn like a huge amount wherever you are in your career, and so I'm really enjoying that bit at the moment.
Amazing. I think we'll get a few questions on that, Hannah. And then passing to Gemma, please.
You can tell I'm not technical, I can't even take myself off mute. So I'm Gemma Hurt, I'm the Early Careers Leader for GE Aviation. So essentially I recruit interns, apprentices and graduates into our leadership programs. Very similar kind of love for my job as Lisa. I love helping people, and it's amazing kind of meeting talent early in their career at a careers fair, not this year, and then managing the recruitment process and then see them kind of flourish in the business. So it's wonderful to see. So I love helping people and also improving processes as well of how can we represent our business in the best way and manage brilliant people through our process and give them an opportunity to shine. So that's me.
Great, thank you. And then last but not least, we have Fifi.
Hi everyone, my name is Fifi, and currently I'm a marketing manager. I say currently because in the recent years my job has changed quite a bit. Just like Hannah mentioned, in GE we have a lot of these programs, and I'm actually on one, so you actually never stop learning. So I'm on one called an Accelerated Leadership Program, which is for people within kind of mid in their career path, to accelerate them to a little bit of to gain experience around the company. So my background really is actually in tech. I'm a huge nerd, but actually now I'm doing more customer facing stuff and working on marketing. So what does that actually mean? So I work in healthcare, and we develop things such as MRI machines, as well as CT, X-ray, that sort of thing, right? And my job really is focused around the digital tools that enhance, like Andres said, the workflow, helps doctors be able to diagnose patients a lot quicker. And specifically what I do is I'm in charge of trying to get the idea of this digital tool, this application, from the engineers out into the market, so then a lot of doctors can know about it and people can benefit from them. This involves having to make sure that we put together our advertisement campaigns, making sure that we clearly outline what the benefits of this product is, and engaging with doctors as well, just to kind of get their feedback and their what we call testimonials about the use of the product as well. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Next year, my job could change again, as it is with some of these leadership programs within GE.
Great, thank you everyone. Okay, so lots of varied backgrounds here for students to ask questions to. So we do have the next half an hour, just under half an hour, to put questions to them. And we've already had a few coming in, which is amazing. So I'd like to start with, we have a question here that says, what advice would you give to school leavers thinking about apprenticeships over further or higher education? So maybe Margaret, you did an engineering degree apprenticeship, so maybe let us know why you chose that route.
So when I was in sixth form in school, I actually applied to both university and apprenticeships because I wanted to keep my options open. But I chose an apprenticeship because for me, I like learning whilst I'm doing things. I like contributing to working around a group of people that I can learn from. Which isn't to say that you don't get that from university, you absolutely do. But in the workplace, I kind of get to apply what I learn to what I do in my everyday job. And I think there's no right or wrong whether you do an apprenticeship or you go to university. It's all dependent on who you are as a person. If you learn well sitting in a classroom listening from a lecturer, then by all means go to university. You'll get so much more of that. And there's always the opportunity for you to do an internship, gain lots of work experience to then find your job. But if you don't like sitting and listening to a lecturer, then try an apprenticeship because they're really hands-on. But there's no right way of doing it. It's personal choice. And I chose an apprenticeship because I wanted that hands-on experience in engineering.
Brilliant, thank you. And then maybe someone who went down the university route, do you want to let us know why you went through that route, sorry? So maybe Hannah or Andres?
Hi, it's Paul Caseman. I've joined on the telephone.
Is that Paul, sorry?
It is, yes.
Perfect, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we'll get round to you in a second. Maybe you can introduce yourself after this question, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, Andres, would you like to take the question?
Yeah, so I was going to say maybe Hannah, because in Spain apprenticeships are not that big. So basically one of my only choices was to go to university or either do a 2-year course.
So for me, I went to university, so 2014 to 2018, and I didn't really know about apprenticeships when I was in sixth form. We weren't really told about them, and so I kind of really knew about the apprenticeships when I was on my internship at GE Oil and Gas, and then even more so when I joined the Edison program, because then I had a lot of interaction with the apprentices that were in like my equivalent year. So it's very difficult to say. I think it completely depends what you want to do. Like if you want something more practical and like hands-on like a regular basis, then definitely, you know, like apprenticeships are probably your way forward. But then if you want like the more traditional route and, you know, you're just doing like university, maybe internship, university, and then into the world of work straight away. So I think it just completely depends on the way that you want to go. Yeah, it's a huge mixed bag, and I think it's completely up to you. Yeah, individuals.
Great, that's a good insight, thank you. Okay, so we'll hand back to Paul. If you want to introduce yourself quickly, let us know what your role is at GE and maybe something you enjoy particularly about your role.
Sure. So I work as a senior quality manager within a GE business in Northern Ireland, and we manufacture equipment which sits beside a transformer, and it's dissolved gas analyzers. I guess I've been working on a quality role for nearly about 20 years now, since I finished university, and I've had some opportunities for global travel. So I guess looking back on my career so far, it was those opportunities to visit different countries, get familiar with different processes, and meet up with the suppliers in those regions. So opportunity to travel has been fantastic.
Great, thank you, Paul. So another one to ask questions to in this session. Let's move on to the next one. This might be for Gemma, I feel. So this one is about, they've asked how do you, oh no, 1 second. I am doing maths, physics, chemistry and biology in year 12. I'm very much interested in an engineering career. How can I get a work experience at a place like GE?
I might pull Hannah in as well, because I know perhaps she's involved in work experience. We do have a work experience program in Cheltenham, I believe. I don't look after it, but maybe Hannah and Margaret are nodding. Everyone can jump in. I would get in touch with businesses. It's really great you're thinking about work experience now. I think often people focus very much completely on education, which is important to get grades that you're passionate about and you believe you deserve, but trying to get some experience as well is really important. But maybe not just limiting it to work experience connected to what you want to do. Any experience to make you a more rounder person and give you some experiences that you can talk about in a recruitment process or help you decide what's important to you is also really beneficial. I don't know, Hannah, Margaret, do you have any specifics on the actual work experience?
Yeah, so we do have a work experience program in Cheltenham. And normally you'd email our work experience email. So for us, it's cheltenham.workexperience@ge.com. Currently, we're not running a typical work experience week per se, because everything's really virtual, and at our Cheltenham site we like to show our work experience, some kind of practical work that we do on the line, building the equipment that we do, using the different tools that we have. But you'll find that if you go to career fairs, that there's asking them about what work experience programs they have is always a really good idea, because they can give you a direct link into the company of someone that's actually managing the work experience program. A good way to go. If not, you can have a look at companies on their websites. They'll normally have a link or a contact you can have. But reach out to anybody that you can find, because even if you were to say get in contact with me and I didn't know, I can always direct you to the right person. So just have the confidence to go out there and ask people, because you'll definitely find it if you start looking and asking.
Great.
It may be worthwhile just touching base with your careers teacher also at your school, because I guess there has been students previously who've been had the same interests, so maybe a first port of call.
Good advice, thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the next question we have. It's fairly linked, so we've got work experience that can make you stand out and help you out. But this question is, how do you feel experiences that are extracurricular activities and competitions can help young people to stand out? Who would like to take that one? Any volunteers?
I think I can take action on that one, because I feel like I didn't have much work experience when I joined uni, apart from cleaning dishes, handing over leaflets and things like that. So I was a bit afraid that I was not gonna get an internship, basically. So what I did, first year of university, I tried to apply to anything possible, really. So first, I became a student ambassador before even getting to Bournemouth. So whilst I was in Spain, I was already a student ambassador for Bournemouth University before even getting there. So try and apply everywhere that you can. And then in my first year at university, I actually tried to research online any company that was doing any work and that where I could help. And I managed to find a company that you could even perhaps maybe talk to. It was called Tech for Space. So it's a company that if you like space and if you like to do any sort of engineering or marketing activity, they will take you on board. It's a company that doesn't look for any profit and is in partnership with Thales Alenia Space. And what we did there, we developed an app to help young students learn about space. So that's something that I did to gain a bit of more technical experience in order to land my job now. And something else that I did was on the first year at university, I also applied to become a PAL leader. So on my second year at university, I actually helped first year students get good grades and also learn about anything that they needed to learn in order to have a good first year at university. So it's definitely important to get experience, and any experience, even if it's not technical, even if it's something that will improve your soft skills, is really valuable.
Thank you, that's brilliant. Okay, so we have a question from James on when do you open the degree apprenticeship schemes up to applications? And what degree apprenticeship schemes do you run across all parts of GE? Don't know if you can help Gemma with that one.
So I can definitely talk on behalf of aviation, but might need the other guys in different parts. So we have opened up our degree apprentice in Cheltenham programme, and that has been open since November the 2nd. So we would definitely encourage you to apply as soon as possible. We've got lots of different apprenticeships, but it's the only one that is connected to a degree. And all of our opportunities are live on GE Careers, and I can definitely share the link for you guys if there's any that you're interested in. I'm not sure, Lisa or everybody else, kind of what programs do you have within apprenticeships?
Certainly for power, I'm based in Rugby, and sorry, there's an echo. Yeah, I'm based in Rugby for power, and we do have some apprenticeships opening up next year. We didn't get them this year because of the obvious, but next year we're opening up for different types of apprenticeships, not just engineering, but also finance and so on as well. So yeah, I think if we all come in through the GE Careers page, then we've got the connection to the right HR people. Will be told that there's somebody interested, and we can pick that up.
Great, thank you, ladies. Okay, so moving the next question. I might bring Fifi in for this one if you can. Notwithstanding COVID, obviously this last year has been a bit strange, but what would a typical day in your role look like? I know you've changed a few times, but maybe give some example.
Yeah, sure. So because my current role is a global role, I have to be very involved with a lot of what we call our regional teams. So we have teams in the US, we have teams in Europe, and we have teams in Asia, right? So typically in my day, it's actually working with all sorts of different teams, trying to understand, first of all, what exactly their customers are wanting, to be able to tailor, let's call it a package for them, right? So there's a lot of teamwork involved. There's a lot of being able to actually communicate well enough what the value of your product is. And as well as also liaising with the engineering teams as well. So because of my technical background, I quite understand. So I was a software engineer, and that's how I started in GE. I understand, the kind of ins and outs with what's actually developed, what it takes to develop the software. And so, often I would hear that, hey, this customer said it would be really great if, they had this feature, for example. I would need to kind of outweigh some of that to understand, see how many customers are having the same exact request, and try and also feed that back into the engineering team to say, okay, could we possibly plan this for our next release of the product as such? So, and then the other side, so that let's call it the more marketing focused side, really is then now working with somewhat external companies, so what we call agencies, right, to help us with things like building the website, being able to build what the advertisement packet would look like. So that's things like the brochures, or any kind of imagery or illustrations that would go around talking to what the product is. So yeah, those are the kind of things that I'm doing, as well as planning out events as well. So I think that's the cool part for me. So to be able to launch a product, you need to have an event, or a reveal of this shiny product, right? And it's really interesting now, because of course we can't be in person. So a lot of these things have to happen virtually. So having to organize a live broadcast of, hey, this is what GE has to reveal, and make it more interactive. That's a really, really interesting challenge I think we face today, right? Because typically, typically in the past, how we would reveal a product is we'll have these huge trade shows, and you'd have loads and loads of doctors and medical professionals come to these trade shows, and then you could kind of unveil and take off the cloth off your new scanner, or show them the new fancy digital equipment. But we can't do that today. So being really effective on how you do digital marketing and launching products digitally, this is a really kind of interesting challenge that I'm currently being faced with.
It sounds really interesting and so varied, and I think it's obviously great, as everyone's having to be so flexible now in these times. It's great that you can do that as well. So it's really flexible. Thank you. Okay, so going back to more the kind of application side of things, we have a question about CVs. So maybe Gemma or some of the other team could help with this one. It is, do you have any tips for making my CV stand out, from Selly Park Girls Year 10 group?
Brilliant. That's a really good question. CVs are obviously the first thing an employer sees of you, so it's really important to make a great impression. Never underestimate the importance of research, so being able to articulate your passion. So perhaps in the kind of opening personal statement on your CV is really connecting your interests, your skill set to what the employer is looking for. I know perhaps if you're thinking about apprenticeships, you're kind of earlier on in your career and perhaps haven't got as much experience, but just being able to demonstrate passion, and that's the most important thing. And and thinking about, we talked about it a bit earlier around kind of your skill sets and your experience. Think about why you did something, not what you did. So I use this example a lot, so you might have heard it before, but if I worked in a bar, Wetherspoons, and I used to serve customers, mop floors and take money, but actually what I did was provide excellent customer service, maintained health and safety standards and protected the revenue of the business, all while working in a team. So it's, if you think about some of your experiences of why you did it rather than what you did, you can really elevate it and make some better connections. I'd also say make sure you put all of your academics on your CV. You might have some grades that you're not particularly proud of, but don't hide them because an employee will ask you, and don't elevate them because we do reference checking. And the saddest thing I've ever had to do is take a job offer away from an intern who elevated one of their grades, and for integrity reasons we had to take their job offer away. The sad thing was we'd have never rejected them based on the grade they weren't happy with. So integrity is really important, making sure you put the right grades on and tailor your CV to the business you're applying to really highlight kind of almost buzzword bingo a bit about what's in the job description, how do your skills connect, and why are you passionate. I think, Andres, you popped your hand up.
Yeah. So I absolutely hated the careers advisors at my university. So what I did is I tried to find information online, and I came across this guide from Cambridge University that if you type on Google Cambridge University CV guide, and it's a great guide and it's great to help you build up your CV, and it has some great tips on it. So if you want to find that one and make use of it, it certainly helped me.
Brilliant, thank you. That's a good point. If any of you guys want to put up, raise your hand virtually, then just jump in and we can go to you as well. Okay, so we've got another 10 minutes, students, for any more questions, so time for them to come in. I wanted to head to Paul, if I can. Obviously, you've had a lot of experience in the industry. I think you said you had 20 years-ish in the industry. So I just wanted to ask, would you have done anything differently, looking back at your younger self, in terms of your experience or what you did before in order to get into this role?
I've had a fantastic career so far, and when I finished studying at university, I studied mechanical and manufacturing engineer. Shortly after that, I was lucky to get into an automotive engineering company, and in the quality role, automotive work to a higher standard than many other industries, and it also allowed me to have that opportunity for the global travel. Looking back, what would I do differently? I would say I probably struggled a wee bit with the softer skills in my early career, and my focus was very much on engineering expertise and technical skills. And I still see that in interns that come to our business. So often in the intern year, when they're with GE, we tend to acknowledge that their technical skills are at a sufficient level, but try to develop their softer skills. So it probably ties in with the previous question about preparing for jobs and for industry. Get involved in different teams, try and widen your perspective as much as possible. Go traveling, play sports, because a lot of these skills you mightn't recognize them at that time, but they actually come together and they complement the technical skills very well. And if your communication is at a high level and you're a good team player and you're willing to learn, then there's lots of opportunities in your hands. I would say as well, learning doesn't stop at school or at university. So we would always encourage lifelong learning, and that can be in a technical aspect, or you can be off learning a new language or learning some new sport. But I would definitely encourage that lifelong learning as well, and try and preempt maybe how industry may change. So we've seen a fair change in the past 20 years from more hands-on engineering probably across to software. And the more of those software programs that you can get familiar with, then again, that's an added bonus to your employer.
Great, thank you. Some good advice there as well, so thanks for that. Moving to Margaret, I think you're obviously doing your degree apprenticeship, and that involves 1 day a week of working and then 4 days studying. So I just kind of wanted, oh, sorry, the other way around, 1 day of studying, 4 days of working. So what does your typical week look like, and how do you juggle that?
What I think it's really nice about doing an apprenticeship is that there's always people around to help, because doing an apprenticeship isn't easy. Studying 1 day a week and then doing work the other days, you've still got to do that uni work as if you were a full-time student. You've just got to do it all in 1 day and then potentially spend quite a bit of your own time doing that as well. My uni day is a Tuesday, and that fits in really nice for me because it kind of almost breaks up my week in a nice way. So I'd spend the whole of Monday working on something work related. Tuesday I can kind of relax a bit, do all my lectures, catch up with any coursework I have to do. And then because Tuesday's so early on in the week as well, if you're catching up on stuff over the weekend, it doesn't give me too much time that I kind of forget anything before I can then ask my lecturers at uni on Tuesday for the work or any questions that I have. And then you'll have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, kind of like a solid 3 days to kind of get back into the kind of work kind of mindset. And that worked really well for me, especially coming straight out of school, because school is very structured. You kind of get told a lot what you have to do, what things you have to hand in. And so you kind of have that on a Tuesday, and then like the rest of the week, you kind of then have to use your own skills, your technical skills, your soft skills, talk to the different people in your team, find out exactly what you're doing, ask for help, ask for lots of help, because being so early on in my career, there's a lot more I don't know than I do. But there's so many people around to help. I've done lots of different rotations in different disciplines of engineering with different teams on different products, and it's all just been one huge learning curve, as a lot of us have said already. But the kind of amount of stuff that I learned, like even I'm starting my 5th year of the apprenticeship this year, and still every day, every week, I'm learning something new. So it's brilliant to have that work environment around you, those people to ask help for and learn from.
Amazing, thank you, Margaret, for that. And in the last few minutes, I have to ask Hannah, give me in a nutshell, what does a cyber investigator do on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, that's a difficult question. So for me, at the moment, so I work in insider threat. So if you imagine, we've got all this stuff we do in GE, and we want to keep it within GE. You know, we don't want, you know, all of our stuff to, you know, go out to the public, because it's our stuff. You know, we want to keep it. You know, it's our intellectual property. And so my job is to make sure that the stuff stays within GE and doesn't leave, basically. It's really interesting. I didn't expect to be here. Like if you'd have told me that I'd be doing this role when I was at university, I'd have been like, yeah, I don't believe you. But that's how my career's kind of ended up going so far. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's definitely something to explore for students if they want to look into it as well. So in the last few minutes, we haven't had any more questions coming in, so any last ones that want to come in, feel free to throw them in now. But I just would like to go around everyone, and just in 30 seconds or in a couple of sentences, can you try and give a piece of advice or a good tip for our students at their current stage, so at school or just leaving school, what you think would be best for them to do going forward in their career path? So without putting you on the spot, let's start with Fifi. Any kind of advice?
Yeah, sure. I was ready to answer that, don't worry. So one thing I would say is follow your passion, right? So I wanted to be a lawyer actually when I was at school, and only changed really like last minute to do computer science at university. And that's because, you know, I wanted to be a lawyer and because I thought that's a good profession to do. But I always loved tech, and I always loved building things, right? Being an engineer. And I said, you know what? I love it. I do it as a hobby. Why not just do it as a career as well? And when you love something, when you're really passionate about it, you can really progress really far and take it, you know, a long way. So that's one thing I'll say. Follow your passion. Really kind of dive straight into it.
Good advice. Thank you. Moving on to Lisa.
Yeah, I think something I've learned along the way, and I tell a lot of people now, is to do some personality type tests and things like that, you know, so you work out what kind of person you really are and if what you're going for is actually going to match what you're good at. Play to your strengths. Often people will say to you that, you know, you need to work on your weaknesses, but I would say probably not. Work with your strengths. There's always, when you're in a team, there's always somebody else that's better at something than you are or can fill the gap. So it's nice to have a balance and a blend like that. Definitely play to your strengths. So it's similar to passion, but something that you're also very good at.
Great, thank you. And then Margaret?
So my advice would be to take every opportunity that you can find, whether it's learning something new, a new skill that you learn that's an interest, or finding work experience or any other sort of online courses. Take every opportunity you can find. And if you can't find any, then make your own, because those are, if better than opportunities that you're given, because that shows your own kind of passion, your proactiveness to find and chase what it is that you want to do.
Thank you. Gemma, moving on to you.
I would say it all kind of mirrors really, and be authentically you. It's more than enough. Don't fake what you think you need to be to get ahead. Be authentically you, because you might be able to fake it for a little while, but actually you won't be happy. And I would much rather personally get a job because they're like the real me, warts and all, than if I got a job pretending to be someone I'm not. And it means that you're more likely to enjoy what you do. There is nothing worse. I've had jobs I haven't loved so much, and trying to get up in the morning and go to work to do a job you don't love, or you know you're not very good at because you faked it along the way, is not a nice place to be. So look after your well-being by just being true to yourself, and that's probably more than enough.
Thank you. In one sentence, Hannah, have you got anything else to add?
To quote a really great person, you aren't pizza, you can't please everybody.
Nice, I love that. And then last but not least, Andres, if you got one for us.
Yeah, I'd really quickly say you'd be surprised of how much people know around you, so don't be afraid to ask questions and to learn from other people. And that's something that I've learned in my internship, because I have to learn a lot of things.
Great. Sorry, I almost missed you, Paul. Last but not least, Paul, have you got anything?
Sure. I would say take the opportunity to gain work experience in different roles if you can. When I was in school, I thought I wanted to be an accountant. I spent a week in an accountant's office, and after that I realised I didn't want to be an accountant. So take those opportunities when you can get them.
Yeah, they're not a waste of time if it makes you understand what you do want to do. I agree.
For sure.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. We'll stop there. We're 1 minute over, but thank you everyone for your time, and thank you students for your questions. I hope it's helped give you a bit of an insight, and I will hand over back to Julie in the main studio, if you will.
Bye everyone.
Thank you, Steph, and thank you to the panel for that. Was a really great insight, and particularly the bits of advice at the end there about being true to yourself, play to your strengths, regardless of what particular role that you are planning or might be interested in for your career. But those pieces of advice are relevant regardless where you end up. And I think we've seen a fantastic day today of giving such a great insight into GE, the broad range of roles that they do. And I must say a particular thank you, obviously, to Marilisa and to Rosalind for helping us set up the day. and for all the many guests that have helped us throughout the day, because your insights have made a huge difference, I'm sure, to you as students watching this episode. So we will record, all these sessions be recorded. So if you haven't managed to watch, or if you know someone that you think actually watching this, someone else might be interested in also having a look, we will send these sessions and the links all throughout that are being done throughout the week. We'll send them through at the end of the week, so it will give you a chance for other people to watch it, whether or not you're watching it live or recorded. And obviously also as well to look back on it, because what you're thinking about this year, as you heard from many of those employers, GE employees, they often change their minds. It's not unusual for us to start in one stage of a career and then move to another. So tomorrow is going to be a very different day, a cybersecurity day partnered with De Montfort University. So for those of us who are going to join us tomorrow, we're going to have another great day focusing to begin with on social engineering, and then moving on to cybersecurity in another live panel. So come and join us again tomorrow. We'd love to see you again, ask lots of questions, learn about a really fascinating and growth sector. But for now, I'd just like to say thank you very much again. I hope you found this really useful, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.